Hello, everyone. Welcome to this interview on Gabon 24 concerning the One Forest Summit taking place in Libreville. And today we're going to talk about forest certification. We're hosting Mr. Kim Carsten, who is the Managing Director of FSC. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
I'm
one more
very
time.
happy to be here.
All right. Thank you one more time for being here. Well, no, let's talk a little bit about forest certification. And the first question will be, if you can tell us a little bit more about what FSC certification is and let's say the question of forest management.
So FSC is an organization that consists of members from three different groups. So environmental NGOs, social groups like workers and trade unions, like representatives of indigenous peoples, and then forest companies. These three groups come together and define what do we see responsible forest management is, and they define a standard for responsible forest management. And then the forests are managed in accordance with that standard, which ensures that there's environmental values, that there's social values, and that there's also economic values in the forest management.
Very interesting. So now, well, can you tell us, sir, what about forest certification and how important it is in today's world?
Forest certification is a very well recognized tool in global markets.
Okay.
For products from a country like Gabon who want to export products from its forest, forest certification is a very important tool to gain access to markets in Europe, in North America, but also other parts of the world. So the market access is extremely important.
Pretty interesting. So as Gabon is hosting the One Forest Summit, the link between forest management and sustainable development is even more important. So can you tell us also, why and how much, this summit, the One Forest Summit can definitely help, FSC certification?
What I hope is that this summit will make it very, very clear to the world that we need forests for at least two purposes.
Okay.
One purpose is protection. So we need to protect the biodiversity, we need to protect the climate resilience and all of these things that are in the forest. We need to protect the home of indigenous peoples. But at the same time, forests are also necessary for sustainable development of the countries that have the forest. Gabon, as an example, has a very, very large forest estate. Over 80% of the country is forest, and that forest need to be used both for protection and also for sustainable development. And I believe certification can help Gabon achieve that objective.
All right, okay, sir. This is a question which is also important is to know how, a country definitely can become, certified. Why a country can become certified and not another one? What's the policy around that?
Some countries have good forest management.
Okay.
Overall, though those are some countries where certification is rather easy. In many developing countries, the tradition is difficult. There are many issues with illegality, in some cases also corruption. I think Gabon is probably somewhere in between. Okay. There are issues like this, but there is a good tradition in Gabon with certified companies who have been certified for 10, 15, 20 years and who have been able to show a very good example to the rest of the world of how forests can be managed for economic, social, and environmental benefit.
All right, sir. Definitely, we can say that forest certification is much more the concern of companies. But do you think little entrepreneurs can also feel concerned?
I think it's very important that the young people also see the value of the tool. Traditionally, the way that we have looked at forests has been mainly focused on the direct product. We focused on the wood. Gabon has done some very good things about the wood by means of putting wood into a transformation, not just selling raw logs, but actually producing furniture or other higher value products for local consumption, but also for the international market. That's a very good step that Gabon has made. But what I hope with this summit, and also for the younger generation, that we will look not only at the value of the wood, but also at the side effects of good forest management.
Sure.
In terms of the biodiversity. There's so many elephants in Gabon, many gorillas, many other very valuable species in the biodiversity realm, but also the forests of Gabon and the Congo Basin as such are extremely important for the world's climate going forward.
All right. In terms of, or talking about development, is it possible, truly speaking, if you allow me to say so, for African countries to reach the level of development of the Western world? I mean, the development that the Western world has today, without touching or destroying the forest or the environment. Is it possible to definitely get developed in that way without touching our forests?
It has to be possible, and I have very, very great confidence in the young people and the entrepreneurs of African countries. I really hope and believe that African young people can create a development that does not repeat all the mistakes we did in Europe, because we've done so many mistakes. I come from Denmark. We at some point destroyed 98% of our forest. It was taken away. Now we're back up to 25%, but not with the same value as it had before. I very much hope that Gabon will not repeat that mistake, but still, of course, you need to use the resource. But we then, from the West, from the rich countries, also need to respect the value that you are creating in the forest, so that we do not punish you from not chopping the forest down, but we actually reward you for not chopping the forest down, but letting it stand, taking out some trees, taking out some non-timber forest product, but maintaining the forest for the other values it also has.
Yeah, but the fact of rewarding, as you were saying earlier, in countries such as Gabon, well, it might be a good policy, or obviously it's a good policy, but I wish we could be a little bit realistic. I can't definitely fancy or imagine any sort of real development in terms of, such as the Western world is for African countries, if definitely we don't that much, or to some extent, let me just say so, destroy even a little bit a part of our forest. How is it possible? That's the big question. Viewers certainly have been asking to themselves, and which I actually seize the opportunity to ask you. Mm-hmm. How will it be possible? Definitely,
it is a big question, and it is also a big challenge. And I think there is not one answer. I think Gabon as a country needs to work on several different development avenues. You have mining, you have oil and gas. Also, those are limited, but they are important as part of the economy. I think you have potential for technology development, and you could say modern non-extractive industries in Gabon. That needs to be pursued. And then I think creating as much value as you can out of the forest. So making sure that you transform the products into high value things like furniture and other things. You can make a lot of money on that. And also that you get recognition, and I hope this summit can help on that, get recognition of the other values that you are maintaining for the world in the forests of Gabon.
All right. I know we're talking about forest certification, but I wish you could allow me to, why not, ask a question, if it's possible, about carbon market, if you allow me to. All right. I know that, let's say, community or indigenous people are really concerned about that question of carbon market or forest certification. Yeah. The thing is, how can they, truly speaking, or just after this summit, feel concerned about the decision that will be made and how that can contribute to bettering the living conditions, definitely?
I think one of the big problems that the world is struggling with is to find a way that the money from the carbon markets can actually go to the real stewards of the forest. Because at the moment that does not happen. So indigenous peoples get very little benefit, if any benefit at all. Mm-hmm. There have been decisions made at the COP26 from climate change in Glasgow to actually put more money back to indigenous peoples. But I'm hoping that this summit will begin looking more specifically at how can we make this happen? Mm-hmm. We as FSC have created what we call the FSC Indigenous Foundation. That's an institution working globally, mm-hmm. starting in Latin America. It's based in Panama, mm-hmm. but now also working in Africa in collaboration with indigenous peoples organizations here to find ways to actually channel resources to the indigenous peoples themselves in ways that will help them design, determine, their own future.
All right. That policy you just mentioned, I mean, FS Indigenous Foundation, when do you think it's going to be implemented in the case of Gabon or the Congo Basin countries?
We are working now to establish the programs in Africa. We have a director who's based in Nairobi in Kenya. And beyond that, we are entering collaboration agreements with indigenous peoples organizations in Africa.
Okay.
And those agreements will start work this year.
All right, we are running out of time, and then I have a last question, sir, if you allow me. I am thinking about the transfer of knowledge. All right, is the FSC, working, to make sure, the next generation keeps fighting as you are trying to get them involved in.
We are creating links with youth organizations, so youth environment organizations, youth forestry organizations, students, to actually, you could say, modernize our message and talk more directly to the developers of the future.
All right.
I mean, I'm old, I'm not a developer of the future, but I hope I can inspire some young people to actually become
Very
that.
interesting. You have a last word, sir. You've just come at the end. Maybe you have anything else to say.
No, thank you very much. I think this is a very interesting conversation.
All right.
I really appreciate the role of Gabon in trying to take the lead in thinking new about how can we actually realize the values that you have in your country, in the forest of your country. And I think that's a very, very good example for the world.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just watched, the interview with Mr. Kim Karsten, who is the Managing Director of FSC. Today's conversation was all about understanding what FSC is. Thank you very much. See you next time. Goodbye.